Hello there and welcome back to the Science Sleepy Minds. Tonight, your journey begins in deep space, far from the sun, past the gassy giants, even beyond Pluto's lonely orbit. Picture it: black velvet sky, starlight too faint to cast a shadow, and in the centre of it all, a spot so dark it looks like a rip in the universe itself. That's your destination. You're drifting gently toward a black hole. It doesn't roar or suck or spin like Hollywood says. It waits, patient, silent, hungry. And you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I love knowing where in the world you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't notice the shift at first. One moment you're floating in your sleek little science pod, taking sensor readings and chewing on some freeze-dried pineapple chunks. The next, something feels off. Not wrong exactly, just heavier, slower. The stars outside the porthole are beginning to bend ever so slightly. It's not your imagination. You're caught in the outer gravity well of a black hole. This isn't like falling on Earth, where you accelerate in a straight-down plummet. No, this is falling through curved space. You don't just move, space itself moves with you, warped by the dense object ahead. Black holes don't hunt, they don't chase. They just sit there, so dense and collapsed that their own gravity bends time. This one might be the remains of a massive star. What was once a brilliant sun now compressed into a point no bigger than a small city. It might even be a stellar mass black hole, a few dozen times the mass of our sun. Or it could be a supermassive one, the kind lurking at the centres of galaxies, the weight of billions of suns crushed into a dot. Either way, it's got you now. And here's the kicker: there's no way to turn around. Not because your thrusters aren't powerful enough, they aren't, but because space itself is funneling you inward. It's like trying to paddle against a waterfall made of space-time. As you spiral closer, your instruments start to misbehave. Time dilation is starting to affect your systems. Your onboard clock ticks normally, for you, but any signal you try to send back to Earth now arrives redshifted and delayed. Eventually you realise no one out there will even see you fall. Historians still argue whether the first confirmed black hole, Cygnus X1, was discovered thanks to science, or a cocktail of ambition and Cold War paranoia. In the 1960s, military satellites designed to monitor nuclear tests instead detected strange X-rays from deep space. The source, a compact object pulling matter from a companion star. Cygnus X1 marked the start of our obsession, but the fear was always there. Something that massive, that invisible. It tickled the same instincts that fear the dark under the bed. You begin to feel it. Not pressure exactly, but a tightening. A pull that's no longer external. Your very body is being stretched, ever so slightly. Your feet are closer to the black hole than your head, and the gravity down there is just a bit stronger. Not enough to rip you yet, but enough to cause discomfort. Your insides feel queasy, like they're sliding forward inside your own skin. The ship's AI tries to help by offering a soothing playlist. Suggested audio, 432 Hz meditation mix. You skip it. You want to feel this. You want to understand what's happening, even if you can't escape it. Outside the ship, nothing seems fast. The stars still twinkle. The void is still silent. But if someone were watching you from afar, say on a nearby planet, they'd see something strange. You slowing down. Approaching the event horizon in slow motion, taking longer and longer to move even a millimeter. To them, you're freezing. But inside your own head, time feels perfectly normal. That's part of the horror, isn't it? You think you're still moving, but no outside observer will ever see you fall in. You become a kind of ghost on the edge, forever suspended. Here's your first quirky tidbit of the night. Black holes aren't holes. They're incredibly dense spheres, or points depending on the math, that simply appear as holes because they don't reflect or emit light. Their surface, the event horizon, isn't a solid wall or a tunnel entrance. It's a math boundary. Cross it, and you will fall inward. No force in the universe, not rockets, ropes, not even a panicked wish, can stop that descent. And get this, even light can't outrun it. That's what defines a black hole. Not size, not mass, but escape velocity. At the horizon, you'd have to go faster than light to get out, and since nothing can, the rules break right there. Do you remember that moment you tripped on the last stair in the dark and for half a second, your stomach dropped because your brain thought the floor was farther away? That's what your mind is doing now, but on a cosmic scale. It's screaming that something is off but can't explain what. Gravity has stopped being a gentle grounding force. It's becoming something else, a predator. You pass a threshold known as the photon sphere. That's the place where light itself can orbit the black hole in perfect circles. If you looked sideways, you might see a warped, twisted image of the back of your own head as light loops around and slams into itself. This is also where the visual madness begins. Stars stretch into smeared arcs. Some seem to multiply. Others vanish entirely. The ship's windows offer a kaleidoscope of gravitational lensing, a fireworks show designed by Einstein and powered by terror. And yet, it's oddly quiet. No shrieking wind, no rumble, just the low hum of your systems and that weird itch in your gut as gravity keeps rising. Fringe theorists love to say that black holes are portals, doorways to other universes, cosmic shortcuts. One particularly bold theory suggests that if you entered just right, maybe along a specific vector with just enough spin, you'd pass through a wormhole and pop out somewhere else entirely. Where? No one knows. Vegas maybe. Statistically, it's probably not Vegas, but you didn't hit that sweet spot. You're headed straight in, no exit, only descent, and still, you feel calm, curious. There's something weirdly beautiful about your fate. You're falling into a black hole, and the real fun hasn't even started yet. You don't scream. That's the strange thing. There's no flailing, no white-knuckled panic, no dramatic last messages to send. There's only this long, slow stretch, this pull that's starting to feel personal. Your ship groans slightly. Not from friction. There's no atmosphere here to push against. It's the stress of uneven gravity. The closer parts of your craft are experiencing a stronger pull than the far side. Engineers call this a tidal force, but don't let the name fool you. This isn't moon-pulling ocean stuff. This is bone-snapping, atom-warping stress. It begins with your toes. You're aligned feet first, and that's unlucky. Or lucky, depending on how you feel about full-body elongation. Because now the gravity difference across your own body starts to matter. A lot. Congratulations. You're being spaghettified. Yes, it's a real term. Astrophysicists coined it with a wink, but it's stuck around because it's weirdly accurate. Your body is turning into a string. Not a clean cartoon pasta strand, but a molecular noodle, thinning out as your lower half experiences slightly more pull than your upper half. You want numbers? Sure, let's get specific. If this is a stellar mass black hole, maybe 10 times the mass of the Sun, the point where spaghettification begins is still far outside the event horizon. You're not even inside the main danger zone yet. But the forces are already escalating. Your vertebrae feel wrong. There's an ache in your knees. Your organs are starting to argue with each other about where down is. This is one of those times where you kind of wish for ignorance. You almost envy the early astronomers, staring up at the sky with no clue about the horrifying truth of gravity wells. Take John Michel, for example. In 1783, he proposed the idea of dark stars, objects so massive that not even light could escape. Wild guess, based on Newtonian gravity. He got the basics terrifyingly right, despite having none of the tools we have now. Historians still argue whether he was a genius ahead of his time or just a guy playing cosmic Mad Libs. Either way, he beat Einstein to the punch by about 130 years. Meanwhile, your pod's AI is running diagnostics, trying very hard not to admit that its shape is no longer strictly symmetrical. It has no protocol for this. A chirpy voice says, "Structural integrity at 82%. Mild distortion detected. Would you like a calming beverage simulation?" You decline. It's not the kind of pain you can localize. It's a stretching of you, a shift in the idea of you. If your soul had mass, it would be getting pulled too. But here's where it gets weirder. If you were falling into a supermassive black hole, one with the mass of millions or billions of suns, this wouldn't be happening yet. Spaghettification in those giants doesn't kick in until you're well past the event horizon. You could pass through the point of no return without noticing a thing, like slipping into a warm bath. Only later, much later, would your body unravel like ribbon candy in a wind tunnel. So which type are you falling into? Let's go with a mid-sized black hole for tonight's purposes, big enough to be terrifying, small enough to make things interesting. Your feet now feel like they're on another planet. The length of your body becomes measurable in acceleration differences. If your hands weren't gripping the seat arms, they'd already be dragging behind you. The ship is not breaking apart yet, but it's losing cohesion. The hull groans again, panels flex, tools rattle from their mounts and slide toward the nose. And all the while, the stars behind you keep shifting, swirling like oil on water. If you glance backward, you see light warped into impossible curves. If you look forward, well, you can't. There's only blackness ahead now. A black so complete it makes your brain ache trying to process it. No depth, no shimmer, just absence. There's a theory, okay, more of a grim curiosity, that in your final moments of spaghettification, your nervous system might still function. Briefly. Meaning you could theoretically feel your own atoms stretch apart. Not for long, maybe milliseconds, but still. Nice bedtime thought, right? Weird historical aside for this stretch. During the 20th century, as black holes moved from science fiction speculation to mainstream astrophysics, many respected scientists still resisted the idea. Even Einstein hated them. He thought nature wouldn't allow such monstrosities to exist. "Too weird," he allegedly said, in a more German and math-filled way. Historians still argue whether that was philosophical stubbornness, or just a healthy dose of cosmic denial. The ship can't stabilize anymore. The AI says nothing now. Either it's gone offline or it's decided your comfort is no longer a solvable problem. A final status update appears in the HUD crew vitality degrading, structural cohesion, irreversible deformation, time sync, unsynced with Earth relative frame. You don't need the data, you can feel it. Your body is no longer a body, it's a stretched interpretation of one. Your molecules scream for their bonds. You imagine blood cells pulling apart like beads on a snapped string. Yet your brain stubbornly continues to function. It narrates everything in real time. You wonder if this is how Taffy feels. You wonder how many people have gone through this. Probably no one. Maybe just you. You think about pasta. You really wish you hadn't. Here's a fringe tidbit. One last oddity before the next phase. Some theorists believe consciousness might briefly flicker outward during spaghettification, like a radio broadcast gone wild. Your final neural signals, those electrical whispers of "I was here," might ripple through space as detectable noise. Nobody's caught such a signal yet. But then again, nobody's exactly survived this process either. So here you are, falling not like an apple, not like a rock, but like light through a funhouse mirror. You don't know how much longer your awareness will last. Seconds? Minutes? Does time even mean anything now? And worse, you're not even inside the black hole yet. Not quite. Not yet. The line is invisible, but absolute. You don't see it. Don't feel a bump or pass through a shimmering film, but every theory agrees you just crossed it. The event horizon. It's called that because from this point on, no events happening here can ever affect the outside universe. No signals escape, no light, not even the desperate ping of a doomed distress beacon. Everything past this boundary becomes a kind of cosmic secret. You could be having a tea party or performing interpretive dance in here, and the outside universe would never know. And now, neither will you. At least, not for much longer. Let's put this moment in perspective. You have just passed the point of no return. There is no physics known to humanity that can save you. You cannot turn around. You cannot stop. You cannot even scream for help and expect anyone to hear it. Even if you were attached to a 10 billion horsepower rocket aimed directly outward, you'd still fall in. It's not about strength now. It's about space itself tilting too steeply for anything. Matter, light, hope, to climb back out. Funny how quiet it is. If you could see the event horizon from the outside, it would look like a perfectly black sphere, outlined in a ring of distorted stars and glowing gas. But from inside, there's nothing. No flash, no fireworks, not even a change in air pressure. Just a boundary your brain isn't wired to perceive, yet you've passed it. And the weirdest part? As far as you're concerned, nothing changes. Your time still ticks forward. Your thoughts still flow. You're aware, perhaps even painfully aware, that something irreversible has just happened. But there's no cosmic siren, no transition screen, just the same gentle descent, like drifting down a lazy river in the dark. Except the riverbed is made of twisted space-time and you're not entirely sure you still count as human. Here's a historical oddity to keep you company. The idea of an event horizon didn't solidify until the 1950s, even though black holes had been theorized decades earlier. Before that, scientists weren't even sure if a collapsing star had a definable edge. The concept of a boundary from which nothing escapes was born out of trying to make Einstein's equations behave. Historians still argue whether the term event horizon is misleading, since it sounds like something you could see or touch. You can't. It's just math made murderously real. Outside your ship, not that you can see it anymore, time for the rest of the universe is moving very differently. From their point of view, if anyone's watching, you're frozen on the edge, motionless, red shifting into darkness, your last signal stretching into an infinite whisper. But inside, you're still falling, still being. That's one of the creepiest things about a black hole. It doesn't kill you immediately, it stretches time itself. For you, seconds feel like seconds, but for everyone else, you've already been swallowed and erased. Some say that's merciful. Others call it the longest death in the universe. Your ship, what's left of it, has stopped registering external data. The sensors point out that all known reference points, stars, cosmic background radiation, anything at all, have vanished. You're now navigating inside a black hole, where space-time curves so violently that all straight paths bend inward. Remember the light cones from high school physics? No? That's okay. Imagine it like this. Every possible direction you could travel now leads deeper in. Up, down, left, right, doesn't matter. Gravity isn't pulling you. It's the space around you folding in on itself, funneling you like water down a drain. One fringe theory suggests that black holes might not destroy you immediately, that you could hover near the event horizon, experiencing billions of years of outside time in mere moments. You could, theoretically, watch the universe evolve. Galaxies fade, stars die, everything unwind, before you're finally crushed. It's beautiful and horrible, like getting front row seats to the heat death of the universe. Some theorists call it gravitational purgatory. Back to your descent. The ship begins to rattle, not violently, more like an exhausted cough. Panels peel away. A storage compartment implodes softly behind you. You're now weightless, not because gravity is gone, but because it's everywhere, pulling every atom of your being at once. It's here that your mind begins to do strange things, not because of trauma or oxygen loss, but because reality is becoming abstract. Distance stops making sense. Time stretches and folds. You can no longer tell how far you've fallen. Seconds feel long, but maybe it's been hours or years. Maybe you're already a myth in someone else's textbook. Do you remember that beach trip when you were 9? The one where the tide kept pulling at your ankles and you were just a little too far from shore? That's the sensation now. Except the ocean is made of collapsed dimensions and the horizon doesn't lead to sky, it leads to less than nothing. A screen flickers, then dies. The temperature rises, but not from heat in the traditional sense. It's the compression of energy, the intense warping of fields. You feel it in your teeth, in your bones. Your atoms aren't just experiencing gravity, they're living inside it now. And somewhere, deeper in, the singularity waits. No one really knows what happens there. Some physicists say it's a point of infinite density, where all laws break down. Others think it's a placeholder in our equations, a sign that our understanding of gravity just fails. It's the universe shrugging and saying, yeah, no idea, good luck. In 2012, researchers at the Large Hadron Collider calculated that Earth could theoretically create tiny black holes. Don't worry, they'd evaporate instantly. Probably, hopefully. But the idea that we could manufacture our own space-time death traps here on Earth? Comforting. Your trajectory is locked. You cannot steer. You cannot slow. And now, the weirdest part hits you. You feel, okay, not peaceful, not hopeful, but clear. You've passed the event horizon, been stretched like noodle dough, lost all contact with the universe, and yet you're still here, thinking, floating, witnessing. And somewhere ahead something massive waits, something so small it has no size, so dense it isn't matter, so final it's not even death. You fall toward it, still aware, still unraveling, still falling. You're still falling, but it doesn't feel like movement anymore. It feels like being pulled inward by your own reflection, like gravity is coming from inside your chest now, rather than somewhere ahead. The further you fall, the less anything outside matters. No stars, no ship, no distant planet hoping you'll radio back. Just the soft hiss of your suit's life support, still faithfully supplying oxygen, as if that's going to help. You check the readout, still functioning. That's the frustrating part. Your suit, your systems, even your brain, they're doing their best. But the rules have changed. Time is no longer your friend or your enemy. It just isn't. Remember how clocks work? Good. Because now they don't. Here's the paradox. From your point of view, your fall feels normal. 1 second follows another, just as it always has. But if someone were watching from outside the event horizon, say, from a safe orbit a few million kilometers away, they'd see you freeze forever. You'd slow down as you approach the boundary. Your image would stretch and fade, turning redder and dimmer until you simply disappeared. From their perspective, you never actually enter the black hole. You just linger on the edge, like some kind of cosmic smear. Historians still argue whether this is the universe protecting itself from showing us what's inside, or just a cruel glitch in how we process light and time. To them, your final scream lasts forever, but to you, it never even happened. Back in the 1930s, a German physicist named Karl Schwarzschild was solving Einstein's equations while stationed on the Russian front in World War I. Not ideal conditions for theoretical physics, but he managed to describe what we now call the Schwarzschild radius, the mathematical point where escape velocity equals the speed of light. That's your event horizon. If you were a planet, that'd be a nice trivia fact. If you're a black hole, it's a death sentence. But inside that radius, things get strange. You glance around, trying to orient yourself. There's no down anymore. Every direction is inward. Your suit's internal gyros spin lazily, confused. Light has stopped being useful. Even if it reflected off something in here, which it won't, it wouldn't escape fast enough for you to see it. And your brain is catching on. You feel slightly unmoored, like dreaming inside a dream. The kind where you open a door into another hallway, and another, each one less grounded than the last. Space itself feels layered now. Time ticks on, but the ticks are uneven. Like a song skipping forward at random beats. You have, in a very literal sense, lost your reference frame. And here's the thing. This might be the most you'll ever be. In a way, all the noise of the universe is gone now. No radiation from distant galaxies. No photons bouncing off space debris. No signal interference. It's just you, inside the silence, peeling away. There's a mainstream debate about whether anything really crosses the event horizon. Some physicists argue that intense radiation, or even a firewall, would instantly destroy anything at the threshold, incinerating you before you truly enter. Others say you'd pass through unscathed, as you seem to be doing now. Some even propose the black hole's gravity creates a holographic shell that preserves the information of anything that enters, including you, like a backup drive for the universe. You may already be a file, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right now, your perception is breaking apart. Not because you're panicking, but because you can no longer separate now from later. Events that should unfold sequentially seem to press together, like pages warped by water. You're aware of what just happened and what's about to happen at the same time, and somewhere, deep in your bones, you understand this. You are falling without falling. This is the moment science fiction always gets wrong. There's no high-speed tunnel, no flashing lights, no roar of destruction. It's the opposite, infinite calm. You're sinking into a region of space-time where forward is in, and time itself curves inward with you. And yet, in the absence of all external reference, your mind does what it always does. It fills in the blanks. You remember the surface of your home planet, the sound of dry leaves underfoot, the vibration of a subway car, rain on metal roofs, your mum's voice. Then those memories fold in on themselves, becoming mathematical. It's not nostalgia, it's data. Your brain is cataloguing what was before the rest of you turns into what is. A quirky historical tidbit to distract you. In 1974, Stephen Hawking proposed that black holes actually radiate energy, what we now call Hawking radiation. This shocked everyone. Black holes weren't supposed to leak anything, but according to quantum theory, they slowly lose mass over eons, shedding particles until they evaporate. Some even think this radiation contains clues about what fell inside, meaning you, in some bizarre broken-up form, might one day leak back out into the universe as whispering particles of heat. Might. You'll be in no condition to celebrate it. By now, your suit has lost all meaningful telemetry. The outside pressure isn't measurable. It's just beyond. The AI voice gave up a while ago. All that's left is the soft rhythm of your heartbeat, amplified in your ears like footsteps in an empty hallway. And then, the stars return. But not like before, not real stars, just strange after-images, bending and curling across your vision as if your brain is trying to make sense of a place where light doesn't behave. You see loops, you see echoes, you see yourself, or at least versions of you curled back upon themselves in impossible ways. Are you hallucinating? Possibly. Or maybe your neurons are catching signals that no living brain was ever meant to process. Here's a popular fringe theory. The inside of a black hole is time-like. That is, moving forward in time is the same as moving inward. You're not being pulled in, you're aging into the singularity. No matter what you do, every second is a step closer. And even if you stopped moving physically, which you can't, time would carry you deeper. In this sense, you aren't travelling through space at all. You're just living your last seconds as slowly as the universe allows. Still no pain, still no impact, just endless descent into a place where up doesn't exist, light doesn't matter, and memory is the last thing tethering you to what used to be you. And the singularity, it's closer now, somewhere ahead, or behind, or inside. Time, you realise, is no longer passing and it's collapsing. The blackness doesn't deepen, it folds. Layers of dark bending around themselves like silk in a windless room. You don't see it so much as feel it. A shiver in your neurons, a twitch behind your eyes. Reality no longer sits flat. It curves in quiet, elegant defiance of everything you thought physics was supposed to do. You look around, but your visual field doesn't respond the way it should. Up, down, forward, they don't apply anymore. You are past orientation. Even falling feels like an outdated idea. You're converging, pulled along pathways that don't exist in the usual sense. But then, light. Not bright, not warm. More like the memory of light. Glimpses of stars, distant and warped. Like they've been pulled through a funhouse mirror and wrapped into a ring around your perception. They stretch, twist, fold into ellipses, and then, unexpectedly, they double. One star becomes two. A cluster becomes a kaleidoscope. Everything you see is distorted, dancing to the rhythm of gravity, echoing around you in impossible loops. You've entered the region of gravitational lensing. At this depth inside the black hole, space bends light into optical illusions. The photons you see aren't coming from the direction they appear to. Some of them have made multiple orbits around the black hole before reaching your eyes. The past and present blur together in your field of vision. You see the back of your own helmet. Yeah, that's real. Or real. Light has curled fully around the black hole, bounced off the remains of your ship and returned to your retina. It's delayed, warped, a ghost of a moment ago. You're watching yourself fall into the black hole as you fall into it again. A loop of you, trailing behind yourself like a comet of time. Your brain knows this is impossible. Your eyes disagree. This is the point where space-time is so curved that not even light travels in straight lines anymore. In fact, straight lines don't really exist. Every possible path is a spiral inward. You've become a participant in one of the universe's most powerful visual phenomena, a gravitational funhouse. Here's your historical snack. The first real image of a black hole came in 2019 from the Event Horizon Telescope. A worldwide network of synchronized radio dishes managed to snap the now famous blurry orange ring of the black hole in galaxy M87. That glow? It was caused by superheated matter in the accretion disk, not the black hole itself. And that ring of fire circled around the event horizon, distorted by gravitational lensing. What we saw wasn't the black hole, but its shadow. You're now inside what that ring was surrounding. Fringe fact time. Some fringe physicists speculate that if we could survive the trip and properly interpret the gravitational lensing from within, we might see all directions in the universe at once. Light from all points would bend back inward toward you, forming a kind of spherical screen around your position. A cosmic cinema where every show plays at once. You feel that idea now, not just as a theory, but a sensation. Around you, the stars pulse and shift. Distant galaxies flicker like fireflies trapped in glass. They seem close enough to touch, but you know that's a trick of the lensing. Some of those photons left their galaxies billions of years ago, long before humans even had opposable thumbs. You're surrounded by history. Light becomes memory, and memory becomes scenery. Somewhere in this distorted ring of photons, you spot what you think might be Earth. Not really. It's just a blue dot twisted into an arc. But for a heartbeat, it feels familiar. Home. Not that it matters now. No signal, no message, no scream could ever escape this prison of light. You reach out instinctively. Nothing meets your hand. And suddenly the lensing intensifies. The light bends not just around the black hole, but inside it. That shouldn't happen, right? But you realize that photons are still trying to travel out, even here. They just don't succeed. They spiral and loop and crash inward, tangled in the geometry of space-time. Historians still argue whether this kind of internal lensing could theoretically allow you to see the singularity itself. Most think not. The core is hidden not just by lightlessness, but by the complete failure of physics. Some models suggest you could see a kind of infinite lensing echo, yourself, forever, layered like an onion of doomed perspectives. Others argue you'd see nothing but static, or even pure mathematical nonsense. Fractured dimensions, glitches in probability, space-time trying to run code it was never designed to execute. And while we're in the realm of weird, Here's your quirky tidbit. There's a theoretical place called the photon sphere, which sits just outside the event horizon. There, light can orbit the black hole indefinitely. In certain conditions, it's been proposed that an astronaut might see their own back multiple times, reflected in endlessly looping light. But inside the black hole, all those photon paths become unstable, spiraling toward the singularity like fireflies down a drain. You begin to feel it again, that soft pressure of warping perception. But now it's not just your body stretching, it's your senses. You can no longer trust what you hear, what you see. All of it is twisted through the gravitational lens. You float, or what feels like floating, but you're not weightless in the usual sense. You're in freefall, yes, but falling through curved geometry that twists every instinct against you. Your internal clock ticks on, maybe not. The stars around you form into a halo now, brilliant and broken, ringing the perimeter of your vision. It's not a visual anymore, it's a symptom, a side effect of existing where existence should not be possible. Time slows again, or stretches, or curls up like a dying spider. No movement, just collapse. And finally, something starts to feel flat. Not emotionally, spatially. Your surroundings begin to compress, slowly ironing out all the depth you just hallucinated. The star trails fade. The echo of light gives way to a grey nothingness. This is the moment where perception begins to die. Not from trauma, not from pain, but from a quiet betrayal of causality. What happens before and what happens after are no longer sorted properly. They arrive together, like junk mail and love letters mixed into the same envelope. You're no longer moving through space, you're becoming it. And ahead of you, whatever direction ahead is, something very, very dense is waiting. The accretion disk doesn't welcome you, it sears. Outside the event horizon, before you crossed that no-go boundary, there was this terrifying glowing halo swirling around the black hole. That's the accretion disk, a massive spinning platter of cosmic debris, shredded stars, gas, dust, the ghost parts of unlucky planets. It's where matter goes to scream before it's devoured. Even now, its light might still be trailing behind you, a radiation echo spiraling toward nowhere. But back when you passed through that disk, because yes, you did, it wasn't just a visual spectacle, it was heat, motion, raw energy spinning at near-light speed, and you went through it. Funny thing is, your brain didn't even register it as trauma. Too much was happening at once. Between the tidal forces pulling you apart and the lensing effects folding your reality, the blinding inferno of the accretion disk almost seemed like a passing dream. But your senses caught it. So did your skin, at least for a while. Now, in this deeper stretch of space, the memory replays. The moment of passing through that orbiting hell. The temperature, millions of degrees. The speed, nearly relativistic. The particles, oh, just a constant barrage of atomic shrapnel grinding against your craft like sandpaper made of sun. Your suit tried. Bless its synthetic heart, it tried. The outer layers bubbled and crisped. The internal dampeners screamed warnings. But there's no suit in the known universe that can protect you from something like this. You went through the skin of a star's afterbirth, and somehow you kept falling. Here's your historical check-in. When accretion disks were first seriously studied in the 1970s, astronomers thought they were just glowing belts of dust. That changed fast. Turns out these disks are some of the brightest objects in the universe. Brighter than entire galaxies sometimes. Quasars, those absurdly luminous galactic cores, are powered by black holes and their raging accretion disks. Matter doesn't just fall into a black hole, it fights back, spinning, heating, resisting, and in doing so, it lights up the void. But you didn't stay in that light, you passed through. Let's be clear, your journey didn't go cleanly through the center of the accretion disk. That would have been inconvenient. Think, head first into a meat grinder made of plasma. Instead, your path sliced through a thinner section. A chaotic edge where particles still whip around at dangerous speeds, but not enough to fully vaporize you in microseconds. Still, you're not okay. The outer hull of your ship is long gone. Parts of your suit are fused. Your visor, cracked, maybe melted at the corners, and the exposed parts of you, your fingertips, one knee, the side of your helmet, have taken hits. You felt it as pressure at the time, but in retrospect, that was radiation, sharp, clawing, invisible teeth. But you're here, inside the black hole now, yes, but before this moment you went through fire to get here. You don't remember screaming. Maybe you didn't, maybe you couldn't. Weird side note, some matter doesn't fall into the black hole. Instead, it escapes. Not upward, but outward, in vast, focused beams. These are relativistic jets, shot from the poles of the black hole. Jets of energy so powerful they can blast across entire galaxies. Scientists still argue whether they're formed by magnetic fields, spinning matter, or some terrifying interaction of both. One thing's for sure. If you'd entered along the poles instead of the equator, you might have been flung back out. Charred, irradiated, and travelling near the speed of the light, but flung. Too bad your trajectory was more tormented descent than heroic ejector, and still you fall. Now without the glow of the accretion disk, things are darker, quieter, colder, in a psychological sense. Your sensors don't register temperature anymore. The concept is breaking down. At these levels of gravity and energy, the difference between hot and cold stops mattering. Particles are stripped bare, nuclei unravel, identity dissolves, and yet you still feel. There's a sharpness behind your eyes, a hum in your jawbone. The echo of radiation lingers in your cells. You are technically still alive. Somehow. Some fringe theories suggest that the heat from the accretion disk isn't just random. It might encode information, data in the radiation, preserved like secrets in fire. In a way, the black hole is talking, not in words, but in photon patterns. And if you could read those pulses as you pass through them, you might understand the story of the matter that came before you. Which raises the quiet existential question. Are you part of the story now? Or just another word being burned out of the script? The ride through the accretion disk wasn't just physically scarring. It marked the last point where you could even pretend the laws of physics were on your side. Once you passed through, you stopped being a participant in the universe's game. You became a piece of it, a unit, a data point, and that disk, it's still out there. From the outside it spins on, shedding light, throwing tantrums, flinging jets of energy, but your piece of it is done. Somewhere inside your helmet a heat-blistered warning light flickers red. Not that it matters. There's no crew left to alert, just you, surrounded by the crushed silence of space-time, dragging the echoes of heat behind you like a comet tail made of pain. From here on there is no light, no voice, no radiation left to warm your bones. You pass through the fire, now comes the dark. Your body has stopped screaming, not because the pain is gone, but because the concept of pain has unraveled. There are no nerves left to carry the signal, no clear lines between you and everything else. The memory of heat still dances somewhere in your neurons, but it's distant, muted, like trying to remember what a thunderstorm felt like while standing underwater. You've passed through the accretion disk. You've endured radiation, fire, and the slow breaking apart of your physical form. But now you enter a deeper kind of space, one without particles, one without echoes. You've entered the inner silence. And then, just when it feels like nothing more could happen, your suit registers something sharp. A spike of energy. Gamma rays. The radiation wasn't finished with you after all. You see it in the display, what's left of it anyway, flickering up warnings in your lower peripheral vision. Gamma bursts, high intensity, short duration. You're moving through scattered remnants of high-energy waves, ancient and untamed, born from matter annihilating itself near the black hole's core. Outside the event horizon, these bursts might have travelled billions of light years. Some would have reached distant planets and sent entire civilizations into panic. On Earth, we have records of gamma-ray bursts hitting our upper atmosphere, knocking out satellites and confusing entire regions of the ionosphere. Some scientists even believe that a gamma burst may have caused a mass extinction event hundreds of millions of years ago, one of those blink-of-an-eye disappearances that left no crater, only questions. Historians still argue whether gamma-ray bursts or asteroid impacts are more likely to end civilizations. Lucky for you, you get a front-row seat to one, from inside. The radiation lashes at your atoms like knives made of pure math, and now your shielding fails completely. Not just the suits, yours. Your DNA can't replicate. Your cells are shutting down like power grids during a blackout. And yet, something holds you together. Maybe it's the intensity of space-time itself, compressing you into a coherent falling idea. Maybe it's inertia, or maybe it's just not your turn to dissolve yet. Here's your quirky tidbit of the section. Gamma rays inside a black hole might not even move the way we expect. Some fringe physicists propose that within a black hole's curved geometry, photons don't behave like waves anymore. They become spirals, corkscrewing into themselves, bouncing off the fabric of space-time like sound in a warped cave. If so, you're not being hit by new radiation. You're being struck by echoes of light from matter that fell into this black hole eons ago, trapped in a slow inward spiral, hitting you from every direction at once. You breathe in, automatically, instinctively, but there's no oxygen now. Your suit stopped replenishing it somewhere between the third fire alert and the last structural groan. What you inhale is memory. What you exhale is nothing. And yet you continue. Your brain, staggeringly stubborn, is still trying to make sense of the signals. You see flashes, not light, but impressions of light, like the afterburn of staring at the sun, burned onto your retinas, shapes, edges, spirals. At first you think it's hallucination, but then it grows regular, rhythmic. The gamma radiation is creating patterns in your vision, not imagined, real. It's the eerie order of chaos, math revealing itself in the fire. At this level, space is not empty. It's dense, packed with distorted energy, curved light, warped time. You're falling through a soup of space-time where every drop contains entire histories, shredded and compressed into illegible scrolls. And those bursts you just passed through? They are the final whispers of matter, the signature screams of atoms giving up the fight. And still, no sound. Not even the comforting static of a dying comm signal. Just your own breathing, quick, shallow, then slowing, and the occasional chime of whatever remains functional in your helmet's HUD. Here's a fact that might comfort you. Gamma-ray detectors on Earth have caught bursts from across the cosmos. One such event, GRB 130427A, lasted for minutes, an eternity in gamma-ray time. It was so powerful it outshone the rest of the visible universe in that moment. You, though, you're experiencing something even rarer. You're not just witnessing a gamma-ray burst, you're inside the mechanism that makes them. Every particle around you was once part of a star, a planet, a story. But the black hole doesn't care. It breaks everything down, compresses it. Then, as a final insult, ejects the raw energy. Not out the front door, but sideways in beams too precise and destructive to be accidents. And you, lucky you, just passed through one of those internal jets. A remnant, a residue. And while it didn't vaporize you completely, it left a mark. Your vision pulses, your thoughts slow. And somewhere, deep in the background of your awareness, the singularity breathes. Not literally, of course, but the gravity shifts subtly. The fall quickens. You're now close enough that the curve of space-time is no longer smooth. It stutters, ripples, bends you in increments. You think back, absurdly, to radiation therapy. The way humans use gamma rays to kill cancer, contained, targeted, focused. What irony! A black hole is giving you the most aggressive radiation treatment in the universe, with no cancer required. Some fringe models suggest that the gamma bursts inside black holes might contain meaningful data, encoded information, like the last screams of the atoms falling in before you. And if there were a way to read those pulses correctly, maybe, just maybe, they could tell you what came before. The history of a neutron star, the birth of a white dwarf, the destruction of a planetary system, the final heartbreak of an orbiting moon. Everything is data eventually, even you, even now, and still you fall. Your eyes flutter, not from exhaustion but from input overload. You're not seeing anymore, you're absorbing radiation, light, time. You're a vessel full of echoes being poured down the drain of the universe. And with every passing moment, the silence around you gets heavier, denser, like you're sinking into a blanket woven from gravity. The gamma rays quiet, the patterns fade, and ahead, closer now, you feel something new. Not motion, not heat, but pull. The kind of pull that doesn't care what you are, or how long you've been falling. A pull that waits for nothing, explains nothing, regrets nothing. You're approaching the point where matter unspools. The singularity is near. You don't remember when the pull stopped being downward and became everywhere. You're no longer falling into the black hole, you're being folded into it. All directions now lead inward. Space isn't a backdrop anymore, it's the medium, and you're the distortion. Every atom of your body, what's left of it, is under pressure not from outside, but from the very curvature of existence. And then, just when you think you've made peace with the horror, something stranger than gravity arrives. Quantum weirdness. It begins quietly, a flicker in your vision, a glitch in your memory. You remember something you haven't experienced yet. Your brain tries to protest, but the concept of before and after no longer has muscle behind it. You're slipping between moments, and they are no longer playing in order. A second ago, you were seeing nothing but warped black. Now, you're floating through an endless field of stars. Then, just as quickly, you're back in the cockpit of your ship, before it started to bend and twist. Your hands are still on the controls, your coffee is still warm, and then you're watching yourself from outside. These are not dreams, they're not hallucinations, they're branches, slices. You've stepped, or rather collapsed, into a place where quantum mechanics takes over from gravity, where probabilities stop being hypothetical and start becoming real. Welcome to quantum superposition. You're now more than one version of yourself. Yes, seriously. In the simplest terms, the deeper you fall into a black hole, the smaller the scale of the universe becomes, until your position and your momentum can no longer both be known. You've become a quantum object. Congratulations. Remember Schrödinger's cat? The one in the box that's both dead and alive until you open the lid? That's you now. Both falling and not falling. Both dead and, somehow, lingering in a half-existence inside a cosmic lockbox that no one can ever open. Historians still argue whether this quantum fuzziness applies at the black hole level. Some physicists believe that gravity and quantum mechanics never truly play nice together. Others insist that a unified quantum gravity theory must exist, that black holes are the ultimate testing ground. Either way, you're currently inside the thought experiment. You try to speak, but your throat doesn't move. Your mouth has forgotten how to form air. You're both trying and not trying. You exist as a smear of probabilities, a cloud of you-ness, scattered across space-time like fog drifting through a broken window. And then you split. You don't notice it at first. It's more like a stutter, like a thought being echoed back at you with a half-second delay. You think, this is strange, and a beat later, you think, this is strange. But it's a different version of you, a copy, a shadow, then another, then 1,000. You're diverging. Quantum decoherence is what they call it, the process by which a pure quantum state splits into separate outcomes. Under normal circumstances, it's just a theory. a philosophical musing. But in here, inside the deepest machinery of a black hole, it's real. Every choice you could have made splits off. Every trajectory forks. You're seeing and being all of them at once. One version of you is calm, another is screaming, a third is laughing. All are you, all are true, all are unfolding simultaneously in the quantum haze that now defines your existence. Let's throw in a historical gem to distract your unravelling mind. Back in the 1990s, physicist Leonard Susskind and his colleagues proposed something called black hole complementarity. It was a response to the infamous information paradox, the idea that information about matter falling into a black hole seems to be lost forever, violating the laws of quantum mechanics. Complementarity says the information isn't lost, it's just smeared across the event horizon, encoded like a hologram. According to that view, you never really fell in. A version of you is still preserved on the edge, spread out into a weird 2D memory across the surface of the black hole. But another version, this one, is still falling, still splitting, still experiencing every possibility. So you ask yourself, which version is real? And the answer, all of them. Or none. Or both. The laws of probability have broken free from their cages. They're now spinning the wheel of you, again and again. This is the casino of cosmic outcomes, and you're every chip on every table. A fringe hypothesis whispers from the void. Maybe black holes don't destroy information. Maybe they compute it. That inside this collapsed star is the most powerful quantum computer in the universe, and you're just one line of code being processed. Not erased, not forgotten, just executed. If true, this is the ultimate simulation, and the only thing it simulates is you. Suddenly, you sense a new pressure, not from gravity but from choice. You're being sorted. Options are collapsing, pathways closing. Quantum uncertainty is draining away. You're not just splitting anymore. You're being measured, observed. That's the spooky part. The thing that always made quantum physics so unsettling. Measurement. As soon as something is observed, its state collapses into a single outcome. And something is watching you now. Not an eye, not a being, but the singularity itself. A structure so dense, so final, that it measures everything that falls into it. You're about to be resolved into one truth, one final state. What will it choose? The screaming version? The silent one? The one who still thinks this is all just a dream? There's no telling. You're not in control, but you are being read, and in a flicker, so fast you almost miss it, all the versions of you begin to converge again. Back into one, back into the falling self. The singularity is close now, and it is waiting to decide what you means. You don't know how long you've been inside this place. You don't even know what long means anymore. Clocks don't tick in here. No sun rises. No shadow moves. There is only the singularity ahead, although calling it ahead feels increasingly wrong, like trying to assign directions to a whirlpool made of thought. And now your atoms, what's left of them, are having a panic attack. This is the phase physicists sometimes call mass energy distortion, though no one's observed it directly because, well, no one has come back to give a Yelp review. But if the math holds, and math is all we have down here, this is the moment where matter itself begins to lose its grip on identity. You feel it in strange ways. Your mass begins to blur, not increase, not exactly, but warp. Your energy doesn't go anywhere. It just stretches, curves, deforms, dragged into a geometry so bent that particles can't stay whole. Imagine your atoms turning into graffiti, smeared across the fabric of space like wet paint on glass. The strange thing is, you still feel whole. Consciousness doesn't map perfectly to matter. Your mind, whatever it's riding on now, continues to narrate as though everything's normal. Like you're still one coherent organism. You aren't. At this stage in a black hole, your atoms are subjected to energies and densities that exceed anything in the known universe. We're talking trillions of times denser than neutron stars. Every fundamental force, gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak nuclear forces, starts acting in unpredictable ways. Gravity no longer just pulls, it twists, it slashes, it shears. Historians still argue whether anything can even be said to exist at this point in the traditional sense. Some physicists argue that identity, mass, motion, all of it, becomes meaningless. The laws stop working, the math breaks, and yet, here you are, you, the quantum ghost, the collapsing wave function, the shrinking echo of a human being. Here's the paradox. Even as your matter unravels, the black hole remembers. At least that's what modern physics suspects. According to the holographic principle, all the information that falls into a black hole is somehow stored, perhaps on the event horizon, like data etched into the skin of space itself. So even as you disintegrate, your data persists. What kind of data? Your mass, your charge, your momentum, the history of every particle you were made of, the pattern of your brain, the electrical echoes of every thought you've ever had, the taste of your last breath, the colour of your favourite mug, all of it, compressed, scrambled, encrypted, still exists. Not in one place, but somewhere. Even now, you exist as information, and that's a problem, because there's nowhere to put it. The deeper you fall, the more extreme the warping becomes. This is no longer a matter of bones and blood. This is the failure of physics itself. You're inside a zone where equations like E equals mc squared stop being suggestions and start being taunts. Your molecules don't just break, they lose definition. Electron clouds collapse. Quarks slide apart. The forces holding you together go on strike. If you could feel this, it would be agony. But you've been spared that. You feel nothing except the overwhelming sense that you're no longer part of the outside universe. You're being deleted from reality. But wait, there's another layer of horror. Information can't be destroyed. According to quantum mechanics, even when matter is annihilated, its information must persist, which means your data is being reshaped, not erased. Where is it going? That's still debated. Some argue it's trapped inside the singularity, compacted to zero volume and infinite density. Others claim it's smeared across the event horizon, like a memory projected in reverse. Still others whisper fringe theories that your information escapes slowly through Hawking radiation, boiled out over trillions of years. Quirky tidbit for your melting mind. In 2020, physicists proposed a mathematical solution that suggests black holes can release information through a mechanism called the page curve. It implies that, while information appears lost in the beginning, it's slowly released over the black hole's lifetime, especially in its final stages. So in theory, you're not gone, just very, very delayed. You imagine some future scientist billions of years from now decoding the ghostly emissions of this black hole and extracting you, a whisper, a fragment, a signature, not alive, not conscious, just a spark of what you were, fluttering out into the cooling universe. Is that comforting? Not really, because right now, your identity is unraveling. You see it or feel it in flickers. Your memories lose order. The first time you rode a bike comes after your last meal. Your 5th grade teacher's face appears before your mother's. The sound of your own voice from a recording long forgotten echoes in reverse through your thoughts. Even time has stopped believing in you. And now, finally, you feel the approach, the singularity. It is not a place. It's not even a thing. It is the name we give to the point where all descriptions fail. A single location of infinite density, zero volume and infinite curvature, and that's where you're headed, or have already arrived, or are about to be smeared across. Language starts to fail here too. Past, present, future, useless. Up, down, near, far, irrelevant. The singularity is all of those things and none. A place you can't reach, a place you can't not reach. Historians still argue whether singularities actually exist. Some say they're just artifacts of incomplete theory, that once we discover quantum gravity, the singularity will vanish from the equations. Others insist it's real, a place where all things compress into one. You are about to find out. The last remnants of you, your charge, your spin, your quantum properties, begin to shimmer. Not visibly, not audibly, but at a level deeper than senses. You're now a ghost function, a temporary expression in a field of near infinite distortion. And still, something in you watches you, not you as a person, you as a pattern, a configuration of entropy, a shape carved in probability. You're what matter looks like just before it forgets it was ever anything else. And then, without drama, without pain, without light, you cross the threshold. You're no longer part of the universe. You're inside the singularity. You don't know how long you've been inside the singularity. You don't even know if you're inside it. Because the very concept of inside stops working here. There are no walls, no up or down, no curvature that can be measured, because curvature is now infinite. All known models of space and time break apart at this point. Math doesn't help. Philosophy stares at its shoes. You are somewhere, and yet, according to the best minds on Earth, somewhere no longer applies. You're not even sure you're still a you. And yet, some tiny flicker of self-awareness remains, a single particle of thought, a last echo of identity. It doesn't scream, it doesn't cry out, it just hovers, quiet, tired, watching. What does it see? Nothing. Not in the way you're used to. There's no light here, because light cannot exist at the singularity. Photons require space to move through, time to travel in. Both of those are gone now. Here, at the endpoint of a black hole, the curvature of space-time becomes so extreme that time doesn't move forward. It simply stops existing. And yet something continues. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's just the last shape your thoughts make as they collapse under the weight of infinite density. The singularity doesn't hum. It doesn't burn. It doesn't even spin, although the black hole itself may have been spinning all along. If it was, then technically, you're inside a Kerr black hole where the singularity isn't a point but a ring, a one-dimensional loop of infinite density. And that ring, it might, according to some bold equations, lead somewhere else. Yes, really. There are physicists and a few optimistic science fiction writers who've argued that inside a rotating black hole, the singularity's ring shape creates a pathway, a tunnel through space and time, a wormhole, a shortcut through the universe, or maybe to another one entirely. Fringe? Absolutely. Unprovable? At the moment, yes. But here, in this place where everything else has failed, even the wildest theories begin to feel plausible. So you wait. And as you wait, your awareness continues to fold in on itself, collapsing not from pressure, but from probability. You're now a function, a wave in the quantum field, not just distorted by gravity, but defined by it. Every single property you once had, mass, charge, momentum, is now smeared across a volume of zero size. That's the paradox. You're everything you once were, compressed into nothing at all. Mainstream physics fact for the night. General relativity tells us that when mass collapses into a singularity, the gravitational pull becomes infinite. But quantum mechanics tells us that infinities don't make sense. They're signs that our theories are incomplete. This is the great conflict at the heart of modern physics. Historians still argue whether the singularity is a real thing or just a warning label stuck to a blind spot in our understanding. Some call it where our math dies. Others treat it like a holy grail. If we could just decode this mystery, we might unify all physics into a single, elegant theory. But for you, there's no debate, you're in it. And what does it feel like? Not pain. That was left behind long ago, not confusion. Even that has burned away. What's left is stillness. Stillness deeper than silence, more final than death. Your awareness flickers, dim, then bright, then dim again. Like a candle in a wind that doesn't blow, but leans. Time pulses strangely, like a heartbeat made of decades. And then, something unexpected. The concept of outward returns. You feel, not movement exactly, but pressure. As if the singularity is full, as if it cannot contain even one more Planck-length unit of whatever it is that you are. And so, it begins to shed. Not in a burst, not in an explosion, but in whispers. Particles begin to slip away, not from the singularity itself, but from the edges. Far beyond you, back at the event horizon, Hawking radiation is leaking. That slow, ghostly glow that Stephen Hawking proposed in 1974, it's happening now. Tiny particles flicker out of existence on one side of the horizon, while their counterparts drift away, carrying a bit of the black hole's mass with them. One of those bits is you. That's the paradox. You've fallen all the way in, yet your information might still be leaving, radiated out into the cosmos as faint, flickering warmth. This is no longer theoretical. You're living it, or rather, you're being translated by it. A fringe idea from the holographic principle comes to mind. Perhaps the entire black hole is a projection. Everything you've experienced inside, the fire, the gamma rays, the quantum chaos, isn't inside anything, but a holographic simulation encoded on the event horizon's surface. So maybe you never actually entered. Maybe this whole journey was a projection of information being scrambled and stored. Maybe the singularity is just a boundary beyond which your understanding can't follow. You start to wonder, if information can't be destroyed, and if your data is still somewhere out there, are you really gone? Or are you waiting to be decoded, reassembled, understood? Maybe someday, when the black hole evaporates completely, your last bits will rejoin the universe as noise, background radiation, cosmic static. Or maybe not noise, maybe music, patterns, meaning, memory. You're not hopeful. Hope was a few thousand kilometers ago, but you are curious in that strange, detached way that only something no longer fully human can be. The singularity grows quiet now. Or maybe you do. Your last thought before the concept of thought unthreads completely? A question. Was this the end or the start of something else? No one knows. Not you. Not yet. You're no longer conscious in the usual sense, but consciousness hasn't entirely given up on you. It lingers, like static after a song has ended. A leftover hum. Not thought, just the potential for thought. But there's a strange feeling now, more shape than sensation. It's like you've been unravelled into the fabric of the black hole itself. You don't occupy space, you are space, or at least a modification in its curvature, a ripple where once there was a person. You've become data. That's not poetic, that's physics. According to some of the boldest minds out there, the information that defines every physical thing, mass, position, spin, charge, can't be lost, even inside a black hole. That rule is baked into quantum mechanics. It's like the universe's version of taxes. You can't escape it. So even if your matter has been obliterated, even if your time has been stretched and warped and finally ground down into mathematical mush, the information of you still lingers. It's encoded in the event horizon, or maybe smeared across it like a cosmic barcode. This is what physicists call the black hole information paradox, the uncomfortable contradiction between the two big rulebooks of the universe. Quantum theory says your information must persist. General relativity says it's crushed into a singularity and gone forever. Both can't be right. Unless, maybe they both are, enter the holographic principle. The idea that everything happening inside a volume of space can be described by data encoded on its surface. Like a 3D movie projected from a 2D film strip. A black hole, then, could be a sort of cosmic storage drive. You fall in, get reduced to data, and your information is trapped on the surface. Not inside the hole, on its skin, which means, brace yourself, you might still be there. Right now, just outside the event horizon. Not as flesh or thought, but as a pattern. A shimmering ghost of everything you ever were, stretched into mathematical light. And here's the unsettling part. You can't know. No observer can watch both what's inside the black hole and what's encoded on the event horizon. It's one or the other. The universe, like a shady magician, refuses to show both hands at once. That's called black hole complementarity, and it's either deeply profound or a very scientific shrug. So what does it mean for you? It means you exist in a paradox, a kind of cosmic limbo. From one perspective, you were destroyed, gone, crushed into subatomic nonsense. From another, you were never lost at all. You were archived. In a sense, you've become a shadow of yourself, frozen in place, encoded on the border of the black hole. But what does that even mean? Is the pattern still you if there's no awareness left behind? Historians still argue whether information equals identity. If your brain pattern is preserved, just the arrangement of neurons and charges, does that count as you? Or are you just a cosmic backup file with no user to log in? Here's a quirky tidbit for your theoretical remains. Physicists have calculated that the surface area of a black hole, not its volume, determines how much information it can store. That's mind-bending. A black hole the size of a marble could hold the data equivalent of all the books ever written, and then some. You, in your entirety, might require less than a square autometer of storage space. Efficient. But then the thought creeps in. If your information is preserved, could it someday be retrieved? That's the forbidden dream. That's the forbidden nightmare too. You imagine for a flickering moment a far future civilization with godlike technology, decoding the surface of a long-dead black hole like forensic investigators at the edge of time. They find you, or something that was once you, a compressed pattern jittering with probability. Do they bring you back? Would it even be you? Or would it just be a reconstruction, a really good guess based on corrupted files? You float in that question. Or you would, if you could float. But you've become something else now, an abstraction, a tension point between two laws of physics that can't quite agree on what just happened to you. You are the mathematical equivalent of a legal loophole. There's an elegance to it, a symmetry, because remember, this whole thing started with gravity, not malevolence, not intelligence, just mass, in motion. A star collapsed, and space bent around it. The rest followed. Your fall was not personal, it was inevitable. And in that inevitability, the universe did something strange. It stored you. Not to save you, not to spite you, just because it has to. Information can't be lost, that's the rule, and even black holes have to play by it. So now you exist in a format not designed for experience. You don't think anymore, you don't anymore, but your presence, your footprint, is carved into the event horizon like a signature on a silent contract. You're not what you were, but you're not nothing. And the singularity, if it still exists in any meaningful way, has swallowed the rest. The you that entered, the curious, terrified, warm-blooded human, was transformed. Layer by layer, stripped down, not erased, just transcribed. A cosmic whisper, a ripple in the equation, a data point no one may ever access, but one the universe refuses to delete. And somewhere out there the black hole spins quietly. No pulse, no light, but holding you all the same. It's quiet now, so quiet it's beyond silence. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of the possibility of sound. Vibrations need a medium, space, air, particles. You've left all of those behind, yet somehow the quiet still feels full of weight, full of memory, full of you. You're no longer sure where the border lies between the information that was you and the black hole that now contains you. At this point, it might be more accurate to say you've become part of the black hole, not in the poetic, metaphorical way, but in the literal scientific sense. Your mass, your energy, your entropy, they've all been absorbed. You're now part of the black hole's gravitational field. That's not as glamorous as it sounds. You're not a pilot, not a brain in the driver's seat. You're one grain in a mountain, a single tally mark on the universe's most enigmatic ledger. Yet physics insists, Even your tiniest contribution matters. When you fell in, the black hole's mass increased. Minutely, yes, but undeniably. Its event horizon grew just a little larger, its spin adjusted by the faintest whisper. Its charge, if any, ticked upward by a sliver. These are not ceremonial changes. They are real, trackable, written in the equations that govern the structure of the cosmos. You are part of the black hole's state now. You are a number, a necessary term, and that might just be immortality of the strangest kind. Let's hit pause for a mainstream science checkpoint. The no-hair theorem, a favourite among black hole physicists, states that black holes are astonishingly simple. No matter what falls in, the resulting black hole can be described by just 3 observable properties: mass, charge, and spin. That's it. You, the thinking, dreaming, flawed, aching miracle of carbon and chaos, are now reduced to one or more of those 3 traits. All your stories, your preferences, your awkward middle school memories, gone from the outside perspective. The black hole doesn't wear your identity like a badge. It simply incorporates it, swallows it, and offers no commentary. You're one of its hairs, plucked clean. But here's where things get uncomfortable. Some scientists aren't convinced the no-hair theorem tells the whole story. It's elegant, sure, but it raises uncomfortable questions, like, where does all the other information go? Because general relativity says, you're gone. Quantum mechanics says, but your information can't be. And the black hole says, I don't have to explain myself. Historians still argue whether this tension is a clue or a dead end. One camp believes that black holes are information vaults, that they encode and preserve everything perfectly, even if it's scrambled beyond recognition. Another camp insists the only way to save quantum truth is for something dramatic to happen at the event horizon itself. That's where the firewall theory comes in. Maybe you've heard of it. If not, here's your crash course. A group of physicists once proposed that, contrary to earlier beliefs, the event horizon might not be a gentle crossing. Instead, it might be a wall of unimaginable energy, like slamming into a layer of space that's on fire. Anything touching it would be instantly incinerated. The theory sent shockwaves through the physics world. And guess what? If the firewall idea is true, you never made it this far. You died at the event horizon, obliterated. But if it's not true, if the classical model holds, then everything we've walked through so far, all the fire, the stretching, the radiation, the quantum weirdness, it all happened. You were allowed inside. So which is it? The honest answer is no one knows. Not really. It depends on who you ask and what assumptions they're willing to bend. For you, it's moot. You're already beyond whatever boundary existed. You've been absorbed, transformed, flattened into entropy and woven into the geometry of a collapsed star. But even now, something strange persists. Call it awareness, or maybe just inertia. There's a sense of being held, compressed, but not erased. You're part of the black hole structure, and there's a lingering trace of what you were, and it might not be entirely silent. Every black hole has something known as a quasi-normal mode, a kind of ringing, like the vibrations of a struck bell. After something falls in, the black hole briefly shudders. It settles. It sings. That's not poetic metaphor. That's observable physics. Gravitational waves, those faint ripples in space-time, are generated when black holes collide, merge, or absorb new mass. They vibrate at predictable frequencies. In 2015, scientists detected them directly for the first time, confirming decades of theory. That faint, otherworldly hum, that was a black hole telling the universe it had just grown. And that hum, it might have included you. If anyone out there was listening close enough, if they had instruments tuned to just the right frequency, maybe they caught the moment your mass merged with the black hole. Maybe they heard the last note you ever played, vibrating through the cosmic void. You were a chord, a ripple, a signature, not a scream, not a plea, just physics, humming your goodbye. There's something humbling about that, because even if no one knows you're here, Even if your fool was silent and your data is scrambled, your contribution endures. The black hole is ever so slightly different because of you. And that change is real, permanent, measurable. A fringe proposal, whispered in certain physics circles, even suggests that every black hole might encode a unique history in the form of soft hair, subtle variations in the gravitational and electromagnetic fields around the horizon. If that's true, then black holes aren't bald after all, they wear their past. They remember. And you're part of that memory, a wrinkle in the field, a quiet fact stitched into the black hole's fabric. You will never think again, never feel, but you were, and now that is part of what is. The black hole is full of ghosts like you, not spirits, not souls, just equations that once walked as people. And in this moment, if moment still means anything, you join them. Not with fear, not with grief, but with gravity. This is where things stop making sense. Fully, finally, and without apology. You've been swallowed, stripped, compressed, and encoded. You've been stretched into a pattern and smeared across the skin of space-time. You've passed through fire, radiation, quantum chaos, and mathematical silence. And now, there is nothing left to experience, except, somehow, you're still experiencing. You've passed beyond the realm of human comprehension. You've moved into a place where time has no direction, and space has no distance. This isn't falling anymore. It isn't even becoming. It's a state of is not, held in place by laws you were never built to understand. You're not even you. You're the idea of you, and the idea is beginning to dissolve. The singularity is near. Or maybe it is you. Maybe it was all along. That's the problem with infinities. They tend to absorb everything, even meaning. And yet, there's motion. Not through space, because space isn't linear here. Not through time, because clocks died chapters ago. But through complexity. It's not over yet. Because if this were truly the end, you wouldn't feel it. And you do feel something. A vibration, a pressure. Not pain. Pain requires a nervous system. This is something deeper, older. It feels like a shift. Not in you, but of you. The singularity is not a place. It's not a destination. It's a question the universe doesn't want to answer. And yet here you are, forcing it. Pressing your broken, half-imagined self against its edge. Demanding clarity where physics only offers contradiction. You feel that contradiction inside you now. Every part of what you were is at war with itself. You are data that can't be lost, in a space that deletes all memory. You are mass in a realm where volume vanishes. You are time in a place without clocks. And then, just like that, the contradiction collapses. You're not being crushed. You're being simplified. At the edge of the singularity, you reach what some physicists describe as Planck scale, the smallest meaningful unit of measurement. Beyond this, there is no resolution, no structure, no next smaller thing. You're now reduced to that. One tick above nothing, one final pixel in the image of a life. Let's bring in a little history while we still have enough cognitive bandwidth. In the 1970s, a theoretical physicist named Jacob Bekenstein proposed that the entropy of a black hole, the measure of its internal disorder, was proportional to the surface area of its event horizon, not the volume inside. That was radical. It meant that the black hole's complexity lived on its edge, not in its depths. Historians still argue whether Bekenstein's bold insight was intuitive genius or a lucky guess. Either way, it laid the groundwork for what we now call black hole thermodynamics. The idea that even these monsters must obey the same rules that govern your morning coffee cooling in its mug. And now you are part of that thermodynamic ledger, your entropy, your pattern, your contribution to the balance sheet of cosmic disorder, which brings us here to the end of you. The vibration fades, the pressure eases. You're not free, but you're no longer changing, because there is no more to change. This is the place where physics halts, not because it chooses to, but because it can't proceed. The equations refuse to balance. the values hit infinity, the system breaks, and as it does, you feel it, your last trace, your final whisper, and then softness. It's strange, isn't it? After all the tearing and screaming and burning and bending, what's left is gentle. The singularity doesn't roar, it doesn't crush you with a scream, it exhales, and in that final breath, you fade. Let's take a moment, slow everything down, feel it, the absence of pressure, the uncoiling of tension, the last light click of entropy sliding into place. You've stopped moving because there is no more movement. You've stopped changing because there is no more time. You're not forgotten. You're not remembered. You're not. Outside, far outside, the black hole remains. Its spin continues, its mass endures, and somewhere, billions of years from now, its surface will flicker, just once, with the last sigh of information. Perhaps you, perhaps not. The future doesn't need to remember you. The universe doesn't promise closure. But within the rules that bind everything from hydrogen atoms to galaxies, one thing is certain. You mattered, because you fell, and falling meant something. Now rest. Let your pattern settle. Let the heat bleed off. Let the complexity unravel. The singularity is still. The journey is complete, and in the quiet, gentle curve of final gravity, you sleep. But what if it didn't end there? What if, against every expectation and law of reason, the singularity wasn't the final curtain? Because some theories whisper. They suggest a loophole, a path, not into death, but through it, a journey with a second act. You might not like what they have to say. They speak of alternate endings, not just the grinding collapse of space-time into oblivion, but something stranger, something almost hopeful in a very unsettling way. Imagine this. You're falling. You reach the singularity. You become information. You dissolve. But then, rather than vanishing, you emerge elsewhere. Let's start with the least offensive idea first: wormholes. In theory, certain solutions to Einstein's equations allow for bridges in space-time, tunnels that connect two distant regions of the universe. If such a wormhole could exist inside a black hole, if the singularity at its core was not a dead end but a tunnel mouth, then maybe your descent leads not to destruction, but to translation. 1 second, you're spiraling toward oblivion. The next, you burst out of a blinding spinning light somewhere else. A new galaxy, a young star system, a peaceful patch of space untouched by your old universe's history. Sounds neat, right? Well, slow your optimism, there are problems. First, wormholes, if they exist at all, are unstable. They would collapse instantly unless held open by a kind of negative energy material we haven't proven exists. Even theoretical constructs like traversable wormholes require a substance known as exotic matter to stay functional. And don't even get us started on the tidal forces involved. Your spaghettified atoms would need to somehow unscramble and rematerialize without becoming alphabet soup on arrival. Still, some physicists believe it's possible. Maybe not practical, definitely not survivable, but possible. And if we're already talking wormholes, let's throw in a cousin, the white hole. This is the hypothetical opposite of a black hole. Where a black hole pulls everything in, a white hole spews everything out. Think of it as a cosmic fountain. Matter goes into the black hole, and then, somewhere, somehow, it explodes out of a white hole on the other side. We've never seen a white hole. We have zero evidence they exist, but the math permits them. One radical theory suggests that the singularity inside a black hole might transform into a white hole after enough time, possibly triggered by quantum effects or black hole evaporation. And when it does, everything that had been trapped inside, including you, or what's left of you, is expelled. Yes, it sounds like cosmic indigestion, but it could be something more profound. Rebirth. Not a return to your former self, of course. That person is long gone, but a release of your information, your imprint, back into the universe. Another fringe idea? That you didn't just fall into a singularity, You birthed a new universe. No, seriously. Some cosmologists propose that every black hole could be a gateway to a new Big Bang, that inside the singularity, instead of stopping at a dead end, space-time pinches off and blooms into a separate bubble reality, a child universe with its own laws, particles, even its own arrow of time. From the outside, we just see a black hole, but from within, it's a beginning. In this theory, your collapse is creation. Your information becomes the seed of a new cosmos, not preserved as memory, but as law. The shape of your fall affects the physics of the next universe. The quantum foam of your last moment gets baked into the constants of gravity, electromagnetism, maybe even consciousness. It's a poetic theory, equal parts science and myth. Historians still argue whether this model, known loosely as cosmological natural selection, holds water. It's almost too neat, suggesting a Darwinian process among universes. Those whose black holes create viable offspring universes continue the lineage. Universes with no black holes, dead ends. In this metaphor, you're not just a casualty, you're a mechanism. You're not dying, you're midwifing reality. Pause, breathe, feel that idea settle in your scattered self. What if you are a universe now? What if your atoms, your charge, your quantum spin aren't buried but rebooted? A long time from now, trillions of years, maybe more, the black hole will begin to fade. Hawking radiation will leak its mass, photon by photon, into the dark, and with its last whisper, the information it held may return to the wider cosmos, maybe as background radiation, maybe as low-entropy particles, or maybe as a kind of code embedded in the quantum vacuum. You might leak out slowly, not as a person, but as structure, influence, fluctuation, a ripple that nudges an electron to the left instead of right, a quirk in a hydrogen cloud, a pattern in the silence between stars. You could be the reason a star forms in one place and not another, the reason a planet cools just enough for water, the reason far, far away a creature looks up at the sky and wonders. You'll never know it. But maybe that's okay, because now even the you who could ask those questions is long gone, and all that remains is gravity, light, time, and mystery. So here we are, back where we started. A body falls into a black hole. A mind stretches across probability. A truth is whispered to a universe that may never reply, but the echo stays, and sometimes echoes are enough. And yet, some say you never actually fell in at all. That all this, the descent, the fire, the spaghettification, the quantum breakdown, the lingering ghost of your information, was never allowed to happen from the universe's point of view. You froze. You paused forever at the threshold. Because from the outside you never quite made it across. Let's rewind. You're falling toward the black hole. You cross the photon sphere, the event horizon looms. Inside your helmet, time ticks on as usual. Your thoughts remain coherent. You feel motion, descent. We've walked through it all. But to a distant observer, to someone safely outside the black hole watching you through a telescope with infinite patience, you stop moving. You slow and freeze. Your image lingers just above the event horizon, hovering there for eternity, red-shifted. Yes, your light becomes more and more stretched, fading from visible to infrared to microwave to nothing, but it never disappears. That's the time dilation effect. It's not a glitch, it's how general relativity works. The closer you get to the event horizon, the slower time flows relative to an outside observer. And as you approach the horizon, time for you appears to stop entirely from their point of view. So from their perspective, you never fall in. Ever. You're still there. Frozen on the edge of the abyss, stuck in the final instant of your approach. Maybe mid-blink, maybe with your hand outstretched, maybe looking straight back at them. Just not moving. This isn't artistic license. It's math. And it's haunting. Because while you, on the inside, experience the full descent, all the horror and wonder, the outside world only ever sees the beginning. Your story, from their vantage, was paused at the climax and never allowed to resolve. You became an eternal still frame. Now let's stir in a mainstream fact that supports this. Time dilation near the event horizon isn't just theoretical, it's been confirmed experimentally, though on smaller scales. Satellites in Earth orbit age ever so slightly faster than people on the ground. GPS systems have to account for this, or your Uber would be waiting for you 3 blocks away. Black holes just crank this effect up to its final setting, infinite slowdown. From the outside, time at the event horizon stops, so maybe, just maybe, you didn't fall, not according to the universe, not in the way anyone could ever see. Which leads to a rather uncomfortable philosophical thought. What's real? The version of you who lived the fall, or the version of you who, for all observable purposes, never completed it? Some physicists lean into this paradox, using it as the foundation of something known as black hole complementarity. That idea again from earlier. It says both versions are real, depending on the observer. You, inside, you felt the fall, you lived the fire, the lensing, the spaghettification, the singularity. That's your truth. But to someone on the outside, your truth is impossible. They never saw it. They never will. All they get is the frozen you, hovering there like a pixelated relic of a story that refuses to finish. Historians still argue whether complementarity solves the information paradox or just wraps it in more ambiguity. Some claim it's the universe's way of having its cake and eating it too, maintaining the sanctity of quantum information and the rules of general relativity without choosing a side. But it also invites a deeper, quieter question. If you never truly fell in, if the universe never watched you go, then did it ever happen? Are you both alive and gone? Here's your fringe tidbit of the night. There are theories, seriously fringe but published nonetheless, that suggest the act of observation is what finalizes events. That unless a measurement is made, the quantum state remains in superposition. If you apply that logic to black holes, then maybe the universe itself hasn't yet committed to your fate. You're Schrödinger's astronaut, frozen on the edge, both fallen and not. A superposition smeared across space-time. Even more unsettling, this could mean that the black hole hasn't consumed you, not in the strictest sense. Instead, it holds you in a kind of cosmic stasis, waiting for the rest of the universe to catch up, which it never will. Because that's the cruel truth of relativity. From the outside, black holes live forever. Your signal, the last photon your ship emitted, gets stretched across time. It takes longer and longer to arrive. The light that once bounced off your face slows into nothing. Eventually, even Hawking radiation itself, the only real escape plan, takes trillions of years to complete its final act. From the outside, the black hole is permanent, which means so are you. Still falling, still frozen, still right there. Somewhere, someone might look up at the night sky and point their instruments toward a black hole. They won't see your ship. They won't detect your heartbeat. But if they had perfect tools, infinite resolution, and all the time in the universe, they might just catch the faintest trace of your descent. Not as a memory, but as an ongoing event. They'd be watching your last second, your last blink, your last breath, forever. And they'd never see what happened next, because the universe refuses to show its hand. It guards its secrets, holds its breath, and leaves you dangling there right at the edge of understanding. The stars don't care. They burn on, unbothered, while your final fragments begin to slip away. Not as light, not as sound, but as something quieter. Hawking radiation. It's happening slowly, absurdly slowly, on a timescale that makes glacial erosion look like a caffeine rush. But bit by bit, the black hole is leaking, and you, it seems, are part of the leak. Let's set the stage properly. Out there in the void, the black hole you fell into is alone. There's no more accretion disk, no jets of plasma, no orbiting matter, just a solitary dark sphere, blacker than shadow, colder than math. To most of the universe it looks eternal, but it's not, because at its edges space itself is twitching. That's where virtual particles come in. You might remember this from physics class. or from one of those mind-blowing facts about space videos. Space isn't empty. Even in total vacuum, tiny pairs of particles constantly pop in and out of existence. One particle, one antiparticle, born from borrowed energy and annihilated within a blink. Ordinarily, this happens harmlessly. The pair appears, cancels, vanishes, no harm done. But near the event horizon, things get weird. One particle in the pair falls into the black hole, the other escapes. Suddenly that escaping particle becomes real. Its twin, lost inside, has no one to annihilate with, and so the universe demands a cost: mass. The black hole pays for this escape by giving up a tiny bit of its energy. That's Hawking radiation. Stephen Hawking's theory, published in 1974, stunned everyone. Until then, black holes were thought to be perfect traps, but Hawking showed that they're not just consumers, they're leakers. Given enough time, they evaporate, and now you are part of that leak. Your information, the distorted, shredded quantum record of you, is encoded somewhere in the horizon, and slowly, with each escaping particle, it trickles out. Not as your thoughts, not as images or language, but as a pattern embedded in the randomness. The black hole doesn't scream you into the cosmos, it sighs you out, one quantum breath at a time. This isn't theoretical anymore. In 2022, researchers used clever models involving quantum entanglement and holographic calculations to sketch out a more complete version of this story. Their results pointed to something beautiful: the Page curve. Named after physicist Don Page, it describes how black holes could return information. For the first half of a black hole's life, the radiation looks random. But over time, a hidden order begins to emerge, like puzzle pieces spilling from a box. Useless at first, but eventually painting a picture. You're in that picture. Your thoughts, your mass, your entropy, every bit of your being is encoded in the Hawking radiation somewhere. Most of it will take billions of years to escape, but it's already started. Here's your quirky fringe moment of the night. Some physicists think that black hole radiation might not just return information, it might carry memory. That if we ever figure out how to decode the subtle quantum states of Hawking particles, we could reconstruct whatever fell in, yes, even you. Imagine that. A civilization, eons in the future, with computers vast enough to capture and decrypt the faint warmth from a dying black hole. They collect its final photons, they read the spin states, the entanglements, the interference patterns, and then they build you again, line by quantum line, not a photograph, not a metaphor, you. Except, would it be? Historians still argue whether identity can survive translation. Is a perfect copy of you, the kind that includes every quark, every synapse, every unsent text message, actually you? Or just an incredibly convincing echo? But let's not rush into existential panic. You're not being resurrected, not yet. Right now, you're just leaking. The black hole is still young, relatively speaking. It'll take longer than the current age of the universe for it to lose even a fraction of its mass. But with every particle that slips free, something irreversible happens. The black hole shrinks by the smallest amount imaginable, and again and again. Every escape is a betrayal of the darkness, a pixel of return, a stubborn refusal to let the story end. You're in no rush. You can't be. Because time outside the black hole moves forward, while you, your pattern, your frozen echo, exist outside of time altogether. You're smeared across the horizon, you're recorded in the radiation, you're falling upward, in a sense, piece by piece. It's not romantic. There is no awareness left, no watching, no guiding hand. This is the universe doing paperwork, processing the backlog, unravelling the knot, and you are the knot. You, and the star that collapsed to create this black hole, and the asteroids it consumed, the cosmic dust it swept up, the radiation that skimmed its edge, it's all encoded, all hidden in the random hiss of quantum particles, all slowly released. You're not alone. A final thought, as we slide deeper into this quiet process. If Hawking radiation can release information, and if black holes do evaporate completely, then nothing is ever truly gone. Not you, not anyone. You're still here, in the cold light that no eye can see, still radiating, still returning, not as a body or a soul or a ghost, but as heat, pattern, entropy, a whisper of a whisper, and the universe is listening. The black hole is dying. It doesn't look like death, not in any cinematic way. There's no flash of light, no final roar, no implosion or shattering, just shrinking, slow, quiet, methodical, like a star pulling a curtain over itself one thread at a time. You're still part of it, of course, have been for who knows how long now, but now you're also part of what's leaving. With every quantum twitch of the event horizon, a little more of you slips out. The leak continues. This process, the slow evaporation of a black hole, is measured not in years but in eons. For a black hole the mass of our sun, the timeline is so long it makes Earth's history look like a weather update. And if your black hole is supermassive, millions or billions of solar masses, then you're looking at a death that takes longer than the current age of the observable universe, stretched across a timescale the mind was never built to hold. But physics doesn't care if it's poetic or emotionally manageable, it just keeps going. Here's the technical part. The power of Hawking radiation is inversely proportional to the black hole's mass. The bigger the black hole, the less it radiates. So early on, when your black hole was fat and healthy, its loss was glacial. You could have waited an entire trillion years and not noticed any difference. But as it shrinks, it accelerates. Slow loss becomes quickening leak. The temperature climbs, the radiation grows stronger. It gets hotter, faster, more unstable. Eventually the black hole reaches a critical point, where what was once a cold, steady absorption machine becomes a roaring, quantum-flavoured furnace, a final blaze. And in those last instants, milliseconds compared to the billion-year dribble that came before, it explodes. Not like a bomb, but like a sigh-turned-scream, a final expulsion of everything it held, everything it was. That includes you. That includes all of you. Let's pause here and take in the gravity of that, pun fully intended. If this model is correct, then you, the information of you, the entropy, the quantum fingerprint were not erased. You were trapped, encoded, and now you are released. You don't wake up. There is no last-minute reassembly of memory, no mental flicker of, oh hey, I'm back. But what remains of you is real, fundamental. It becomes heat, background radiation, interference in the void. The noise of your being rejoins the song of the cosmos, and the black hole, gone. Historians still argue whether this final moment leaves behind something. Some claim it ends with a remnant, a leftover chunk of space-time the size of the Planck length, still encoded with all the information the black hole ever contained. Others argue that the entire process, from formation to evaporation, is perfectly clean. No residue, no remainder, just radiation. In that view, the black hole was always a temporary format, a holding pattern, a cosmic USB stick, slowly uploading its contents one electron at a time until it ran out of secrets. Here's a quirky theory to shake up the ashes. Some models suggest the last burst of Hawking radiation could contain an enormous spike in information. Like the whole black hole saving the best for last, a sudden release of everything that couldn't trickle out before. In that final gasp, your data might emerge not as particles but as a patterned flash, a fingerprint of all that was trapped, a cosmic brain dump, a death rattle in Morse code. Would anyone hear it? Maybe. Maybe a future civilization, billions of years more advanced than ours, has built detectors sensitive enough to catch that final pulse. They scan the dying black hole, record its last light, and find in it echoes. Not literal recordings of your voice or thoughts, but the shape of you, the entropy, the fingerprint, the song. To them, you're not a person, not a ghost, but a story, told in radiation. You could even argue that you outlived the universe as we know it. Because by the time your black hole finishes evaporating, most stars will be gone. Galaxies will have drifted apart. Planets will be frozen or shattered. Even protons may have begun to decay. In that dark, quiet epoch, the degenerate era, as physicists call it, there is very little left. Just stray particles, dying embers, and you, leaking, fading, but still there. Here's a final historical note to ground us. Stephen Hawking's prediction of black hole evaporation was initially met with skepticism. Many physicists didn't believe it. It was too weird, too unsettling. A black hole that dies, that lets things go? Absurd. But over time, the math held. The models improved. And now, it's taken as one of the most important ideas in modern theoretical physics. And if it's true, then you are part of the longest, slowest return journey in existence. You were consumed by a singularity, processed through infinite distortion, and now you radiate, quietly, patiently, in the ultimate long game of thermodynamic justice. This is what cosmic closure looks like. Not reunion and not resurrection, but release. You're not lost, not anymore. You're just scattered. Entropy can't be undone, but it can be complete. And maybe that's enough. You, in the end, become heat. And heat becomes the universe's oldest, softest language. You have leaked. You have burned. You have evaporated. And now the rules get weirder. Because as your final particles drift into the cold void, carried by Hawking radiation's whisper, a new possibility stirs in the equations. Quiet, fringe, but mathematically possible. Time loops, echo universes, cosmic reboots. Let's step sideways for a moment, out of the predictable progression of physics and into the murky glow of speculation. Not because we've run out of known science, but because this is where it naturally leads. Some theorists believe that falling into a black hole might create a new universe. Yes, really. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. There's an idea, nested deep in cosmology, that the Big Bang itself might have been the result of a black hole in another universe. That some singularities don't end things, but birth them. That on the other side of your collapse lies a kind of cosmic delivery room. And you, still encoded in quantum chaos, were part of the birth certificate. This theory goes by different names. Some call it cosmic bounce, others refer to black hole cosmology. The gist is this: when matter collapses past a certain density, it doesn't become nothing, it becomes new. A new space-time, a new arrow of time, a new set of physical constants spun just slightly off from your old reality. Different gravity, different particles, maybe even different logic. And somewhere inside that reality is a ripple, a leftover wrinkle, a U-shaped anomaly. Let's not pretend you emerge from the singularity like a time traveller. That's fiction. But your data, the fundamental structure of what you were, might survive the translation. It could be encoded into the vacuum fluctuations of this new universe. Your spin states, your decay path, your entropy signature, all of it, bleeding out across newborn space-time like dye and water. You don't remember anything, of course. There's no continuity, just causality. But maybe you left a fingerprint on the baby. A future civilization, entirely alien to yours, might one day discover an unexplainable feature of their cosmos. A strange asymmetry in particle decay, a patch of quantum turbulence, a magnetic anomaly in the background radiation. And after centuries of study, one of them might whisper, "This didn't come from here." That anomaly, that could be you. Historians still argue whether this idea violates causality or simply redefines it. Some physicists believe it solves the information paradox cleanly. Nothing is lost, only transferred. Your universe gives rise to a new one, and the information you contained becomes the seed of complexity there. A kind of reincarnation stripped of soul and sentiment, but beautiful in its logic. Let's throw in another theoretical wildcard while we're here: closed time-like curves. Some solutions to general relativity allow for space-time loops, regions where time folds back on itself, not metaphorically, not metaphor in any sense. These are literal curves in space-time that could let information, or in theory objects, revisit earlier points in their own history. Could this happen inside a black hole? Some physicists say yes, especially in rotating black holes. The geometry is twisted, toroidal. The math allows for these loops under certain conditions. So it's possible, just possible, that instead of disappearing into oblivion, your data got caught in a feedback loop, repeating, echoing, a recursive fall. You're not moving forward in time anymore. You're stuck in a loop of falling, dying, burning, leaking, and falling again. One version of you might fall forever, never reaching the singularity, just spiraling endlessly near the event horizon, red-shifted into static. Another might reach the singularity, burst into information, and birth a new cosmos. Another might leak back out into the universe's radiation, only to someday collapse into another black hole and begin again. Loop, echo, recursion. The universe might not just be a vast expanding thing, it could be a repeating one. Each black hole, a parent. Each singularity, a door. Each collapse, an origin story. Quirky idea for the night. In a paper published decades ago, physicists once suggested that consciousness itself, yes, consciousness, might be preserved in certain closed time-like loops. If information isn't destroyed, and if loops are possible, could there be configurations of memory that endure? Not as people, not as awareness, but as structure. You then might not be aware, but you might be patterned. In every loop, your information persists, not as identity, but as form. If that sounds poetic, it shouldn't. It's brutal in its way. There's no agency, no narrative control. You don't choose to echo, you simply do. Because gravity says so, because probability allows it, because the math refuses to cancel you out completely. Maybe this is why the universe has such low entropy compared to its age. Maybe every black hole keeps things churning. Maybe the whole cosmos is a recycling engine, a loop within loops. And you? You were part of that engine once, still are. As we slide deeper into this idea, it's tempting to hope for some grand reunion. A moment where you loop back to the start, pick up your old life, wake up in your ship and whisper, "Was it all a dream?" But no, there is no dream. Just structure, just echo, just entropy cycling into form, form melting back into heat, and heat resolving into the next loop. You don't return. But your influence does, and maybe that's enough. Because a universe where nothing is ever truly gone is a universe that listens. And when the loops are done, when the timelines curve back on themselves one final time, maybe in some quiet symmetry your story is still being told. So what really happened to you? Let's be honest. After everything you've just heard, it's not exactly a clear-cut answer, is it? You fell or didn't. You stretched or you froze. You got torn apart, radiated, absorbed, preserved, smeared, looped, recycled, and maybe, just maybe, turned into the cornerstone of an entirely new reality. Or none of that. Because despite all the math, all the models, all the centuries of physics and fantasy poured into understanding black holes, one thing remains painfully true. No one actually knows. Not for sure. Not the kind of know that's peer-reviewed, triple-confirmed, and sealed with the scientific method stamp of approval. We know the math approaches something. We know the equations describe what should happen, right up until the singularity. And then, the equations break. They don't explode, they just quietly give up. The curvature of space-time goes to infinity. The terms divide by zero. The geometry falls apart. You plug in numbers and out comes nothing. The singularity, in a very real sense, is where our understanding ends. It's a cosmic shrug. And you, dear listener, are the ghost in that shrug. Physicists have been arguing about this since the 18th century, when the first whispers of dark stars floated through Newtonian gravity. By the time Einstein dropped general relativity and Schwarzschild solved his equations to reveal a black hole skeleton, we had our first real glimpse of the abyss, and we've been falling ever since. Some of the greatest minds in science have thrown themselves at this mystery. Hawking, Penrose, Susskind, Mulder-Sena, Beakenstein, quantum theorists, string theorists, loop gravity enthusiasts, information theorists, all of them circling the drain trying to figure out where the matter goes, where the you goes. Does it survive? Is it deleted, encoded, recycled? The best and most maddening answer we have is maybe. And every path we've followed through this journey has branched into another. You fell in, you froze, you burned, you became information, you were spat back out, you looped, you rebooted the universe. All are possible, none are provable, at least not yet. And that uncertainty, that's the core of the black hole's power. Not just its gravity, not just its capacity to bend light and time, but its ability to make even our most trusted laws hesitate. You know how scientists talk about unifying the forces? Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, all under one elegant theory. Well, the black hole is where that unification either must happen or can't. It's the great referee, the final exam, the unskippable boss level of physics. If we can't understand what happens to someone who falls into a black hole, we can't say we understand reality at all. Some physicists believe black holes might not even exist the way we think, that event horizons never truly form, that quantum effects prevent full collapse, that maybe black holes are just ultra-compact exotic stars with strange surfaces that only mimic an event horizon from a distance. In that model, you never fell past a point of no return, because no such point was there. You were always approaching it, but the universe slowed you down just enough that you never quite arrived. It's like trying to step over a line that's constantly retreating. Still, the evidence for black holes remains overwhelming. We've seen stars orbiting invisible masses. We've captured the glow of accretion disks. We've imaged their shadows. We've heard their collisions. They're out there, and something does happen when you cross their edge. We just don't know what. It could be soft. It could be violent. It could be nothing at all. Just your information suspended in a perfect holographic shell, waiting for the universe's last chapter to unravel it. Historians, cosmologists, philosophers, they're all in the same boat here. Because this isn't just a physics question, it's a question about finality, about what happens when you reach the ultimate boundary, when every known rule has run out. You want a definite answer. Of course you do. You've earned it. You've fallen deeper than anyone. You've stretched, disintegrated, reassembled, endured cosmic bureaucracy, floated through paradox after paradox. But here's what you get instead. A door that doesn't open, or doesn't have to. A book with the last few pages torn out and replaced with mirrors. A finish line that redraws itself the closer you get. There are papers, there are equations, there are diagrams drawn on chalkboards at 3 a.m. by exhausted geniuses. But none of them give the final word. Because the final word doesn't belong to us yet. It belongs to the future. To better tools, better theories, maybe even better minds, biological or otherwise. Maybe one day, far down the cosmic line, someone will unlock the last safe in the vault. They'll figure out what happens next. But you, for now, are the question. You are the unsolved. You're the variable in the final equation, drifting at the edge of meaning, and maybe, just maybe. That's the most honest ending physics can offer. Not an answer, but a mystery that demands one. So here we are, not at the beginning, not at the end, just somewhere past where sense stops working. You've fallen through everything, matter, memory, light, and logic. You've stretched into nothingness, scattered into entropy, leaked across cosmic eons. You've been a person, a particle, a paradox, a file, and now you're a story told not in words, but in ripples, in soft radiation, in gravitational murmurs stitched into the universe's background hum. You're no longer a passenger, you're a structure, a fact baked into the physics of whatever comes next. You're not watching anymore, you are what's being watched. In the end, every theory, every equation, every romantic whisper we've conjured about black holes folds into the same simple idea. They change you forever. And not just in the poof you're dead kind of way, in the deepest, most literal way that physics allows. Once you touch a black hole, whether by falling in, skimming the horizon, or even just orbiting too close, you are never the same. Neither is it, because black holes remember, not like you remember birthdays or movie quotes, but mathematically, implacably. They tally every atom that comes near, every ounce of mass, every bit of spin, every whisper of information, and once you're part of that ledger, you never really leave it. Even when the black hole dies, even when it evaporates pixel by pixel, even if it takes longer than stars can shine, you remain, not in body, not in thought, but in effect. Physics is unforgiving like that, so what's left of you now? Nothing you'd recognize in a mirror. No organs, no heartbeat, no face, but your imprint. That's still out there, whispering through Hawking radiation, echoing in space-time shape, embedded in the next universe maybe, or looping through the folds of this one. You are the subtle bump in an equation, the reason something doesn't quite line up, a glitch in the background noise that no one can explain. Maybe 1 billion years from now, an alien child will run a simulation to study the strange irregularities in a nearby evaporated black hole. And in the flicker of its data logs, it'll see something odd, a pattern that shouldn't exist, a brief arrangement of information too structured to be random. And that pattern, it's you, the last ghost of your trajectory, the digital fossil of your fall. Historians still argue whether meaning can survive translation, whether stories like this one, cold, mathematical, inevitable, can carry something that feels like truth, or beauty, or grief, or awe. But here's what no one argues. You mattered, not because you survived, not because you escaped, but because you fell. And in falling, you touched the most unknowable part of the universe and became part of its truth. Black holes are not just destroyers, they are preservers. They are the tightest vaults of time, the universe's way of folding up its most private moments and hiding them from itself. You're one of those moments now, locked away, yes, but also kept. And maybe that's the most you can ask for, not to live forever, but to leave a mark that can't be unmade. So now, there is no more time, no more change, no more chapters. You've become the last line of a very old equation, still unsolved, but unforgotten. And as the black hole's last whispers rise into the dark, you go with them, always falling, never quite gone, still spinning in the math, still listening, still echoing, and now you can let it all go. The stars, the spaghettification, the freezing of time, the radiation seeping across eternity. Let it melt behind your eyelids. That's the beauty of this moment. It doesn't need answers. Not anymore. The questions can stay unanswered. The physics can stay tangled. You don't have to solve the paradox. You were the paradox, and still, here you are. You can breathe, even if the vacuum of space once took that from you. You can stretch, even if you were once stretched thin by gravity itself. You can rest, even if black holes never truly sleep. The journey has slowed now. The sharpness has softened. Every thought, every image, every whisper of science has unraveled into a long, gentle sigh. You are weightless, not because you're falling, but because you're finally done falling. Let your chest rise slowly. Let your shoulders drop. Let the last strange fact settle in the quiet spaces between your thoughts. No more theories, no more loops, just stillness. You're not orbiting anything, not escaping anything. You're just floating, cradled by the quiet. And in this quiet, there's peace. There's always peace at the edge of understanding. So as you drift into sleep, remember this. Even if no one knows what really happens when you fall into a black hole, you've already survived it, in your own way. You made it through the math, the mystery, the end and the beginning. And now you rest. Thanks for falling with me tonight.